Aloha class. Today I'll be talking about typography and the different types of typography principles that we use while making a website. So first off, the question that we're going to look at is what considerations need to go into choosing a font. First off, uh, the first thing we need to look at is that the text should be usable for a variety of purposes, being able to express a lot of different voices and emotions. Basically just being simple and neutral. Two very good examples of that principle are sans and serif style fonts. If you look at the fonts here, one of my favorite, Helvetica at the top, you can tell it's a nice font. It's has a little bit of style to it, but then again, it can be used for a wide range of topics. It can be used basically for younger crowds, for older crowds. It's very easy to understand and to comprehend, and so it gives a lot of options for the web designer. Same with all these other examples on here as well. Second, the thing that we would like to consider is the grouping or the families of our text in the fonts. So for example, as those two examples, sans and serif, were good examples, we now look at them together. If you look at examples of sans fonts, at the beginning here, you can notice that on the end of the text, for example, this T, it has the feet on there. So it makes the font a little more nice, a little more fancy. Whereas here, if you go to the serif style fonts, they just come straight down to a straight line, a little less fancy, but both are good examples of simple and easy text to read. But at the same time, they're quite different. So it wouldn't be a smart idea to group these in the same category as at the same time. Third thing that we'd consider is contrasting our fonts. If we're going to contrast fonts at all, we need to do it a lot and not have wimpy differences. If we do use wimpy differences, basically what that is going to do is just going to kind of throw off a balance there. It's not really easy to understand why one font would be just a little bit different than the other. If you are going to do it, it just needs to be very noticeable and done for a purpose. Like small font down here and big font up here. A lot of times you'll see companies that do that where they'll put their brand name in big bold font, and then down on the bottom they might have their company's logo or something like that. And so that's a good example of ways to have contrast in your fonts and still be able to create a nice website. Let's see. Also right here, a little goes a long way. Lots of personality can be expressed in small amounts. So right here, where we have the two areas up and down on here. Let's see, that font didn't pull through. Basically, what I was trying to show here is that I was going to have all three of these fonts a really nice fancy font that sticks out. And here I was going to have this part up here that says Noah Surf Shop, a nice fancy font, but this bottom part down here was going to stay this same exact font. A lot of times when it comes to fonts, we feel as designers that we need to make the whole text body really nice and fancy, but that's not necessarily the case. As long as we can play around with it a little bit and have say the top part up here nice and fancy. However, it doesn't need to all be like that. Having this part down here stay this same easy to understand readable font, it gives us a lot of room to play with. It keeps that contrast in there, and it just makes it look a lot nicer and more professional. Basically, the last rule to consider is that there are no rules. A lot of things work through trial and error. when designing a website, you'll try things that you think might work, and then when you actually put it onto the page, you'll find out that it doesn't work. And that's what we mean by trial and error. Um, some things work for certain people and for certain styles, but other things don't. And so a lot of it is just playing around and seeing what works best for you. The next question that we're going to look at, and we're going to show some more examples, is the role of contrast, hierarchy, space, and size in setting type. So first off, we're going to look at contrast. Contrast is there to honor the content of the site and to make sure the text is readable. So up here at the top I have a good example of contrast, and at the bottom I have a little bit of a bad example. The reason up here it's a good example is because there's a lot of text that's black in print, and the background is white. So it's has the contrast there. It's very easy to read and understand. Now here, where the back is black like this, and we have a white text in front, with so much text, it actually puts some strain on our eyes and makes it a little bit harder to understand and to read this much text. So the contrast down here might be good in certain situations, but not for the amount of text that we have here. And so contrast is something that will be very important in setting the typography of a website. Next is hierarchy. If you look right here, we're using different types of size, style, and fonts to get the point across. So basically, the more fancy and the bigger a font is, it's going to draw more attention to the viewer. And so we would probably use that like I did up here as a title or as a section header. Then when we switch the size and the font down to smaller or something a little bit easier to read, um, it creates more content diversity within the text. And so these are just some examples of the three different styles that you can use to create hierarchy with using a font and also with using the size of the text. Another area that we want to look at is space. One thing that we need to know is that we don't need to be afraid of space. Space is good. Blank spots that have no text or no pictures or anything are good, because what that allows us to do is concentrate on the content of what we're looking at. So don't be afraid of that white space. It keeps balance on our page and draws attention to where we need it. Last off, today I'll be talking about size. If you look down here, we have size 10 and size 12 font. That's probably about the smallest you would ever want to go for a website, just because it's going to be harder to read if you get any smaller than that. But even with this is on the very small end. So 10 to 12 is a good minimum. But if you're in doubt, if you're worried about whether the viewer is going to have a hard time reading or not, just make it bigger. Obviously, too big is not good as well, but obviously the bigger the better when trying to be more readable and easier on the viewer's eyes. And so these are the principles that we need to look at in typography. I hope you learned a little bit from this video and you can apply these principles in your own web design in the future. Thank you.